Grace inspirational Ray activity that we have once a month. So who watched the Oscars last night? Of course you did, right? Everybody liked them? So when you go, now they're okay. But when you go to a movie, and you ask yourself this question, I think I want to see that. Oh, that looks good. And what does that mean, that looks good? It means that either the trailer or the poster made you want to see the movie. And that, because you haven't seen it yet, so how do you know? And then your friends will tell you, yeah, good poster, bad movie, good trailer, bad movie, the whole trailer is in the movie. Yeah. And this is really so important. And years ago when I worked in film, there was the rule of parking and the rule of female veto. So the parking rule was if you're going to the movies with your spouse or husband or boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever on Saturday night, there was no parking, you probably would leave the place where you went. So you don't want to see the movie. The female veto rule was, yeah, honey, I'm not inside. See that with your friends. And this is how fragile and how tenuous going to get box office numbers were. So what is the most important part of getting people to even consider it? The poster, the trailer, the marketing materials that really make you want to go. So just look at the screen for a little bit, and I'm going to introduce to you Vivek Mathur and James Verdesoto, who have been making movie posters for over 25 years, almost 25 years. Almost 25 years. They actually we worked together like 100 years ago, sometime before the 25, when I worked in film. So I brought them in today to inspire you and to look at their work and see how really incredible you can make a bad movie really good, and make a good movie seem okay. So take it away, James and Vivek. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie, first of all, for inviting us. And it's been years of knowing you and appreciating your work.
Yes, and I actually, Vivek and I have had a company together for 25 years. But before that, I was in the industry 5 years before Indika. That's where I met Bonnie. She was one of my first clients, and she paid me a lot of money, which was really good. And she was very, very creative, but also really, what I remember is always never having to explain in detail the creative ideas that I had, because she was already like either ahead of me or kind of understood where I was coming from. So it was always a fun experience.
Thanks,
so,
James.
And it was like real projects.
Yeah, there were fun bad movies.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit how you got into this crazy business. I think you actually entered a contest, right?
Yes. I was a student at Parsons School of Design in my sophomore year, and there was like a job billboard sign and for part-time work, and there was like a movie poster contest sponsored by the Weinstein brothers from Miramax Films at the time. And you had to show your portfolio, and then they had a call back, and then basically the Weinstein brothers had a two-bedroom suite on 56th Street in Broadway. And so I went in there, interviewed with them, and then they narrowed down the students to participate in the contest, and I won first prize in the contest, which was a horror movie. Do you have the Bernie poster?
Who doesn't know who the Weinstein brothers are? Okay, everybody knows.
So this was like the first poster I did that won the contest. It was taking like a slasher film and kind of making it a little bit more elegant. That was done all by hand using airbrush and hand drawn. And at one point I actually lost the original art on the subway and had to go home and redo the whole thing from scratch. So I was up all night sweating, doing airbrush, the whole thing. Luckily I had all the stencils. It's kind of like Photoshop. I had all the stencils at home, so I just went back home, redid the whole thing from scratch. And then didn't sleep for 2 days trying to deliver it. The next one is Summer Job was
yes.
one of the projects that I worked on with Bonnie.
Yes.
So if you notice, like
okay, so tell us about the budget on this film. How we couldn't afford the model.
well, yes. I mean, if you show the face of the model, you have to pay a lot of extra, more extra money for that. And
who's looking at her face, really? Let's face it.
And it's funny because we're talking about breaking into the industry. I just realized that through horror and exploitation and sex, I was able to break into the movie industry. So that's really nice.
And I think the guy in the drink was the photographer, right? Or the gaffer, or the.
He was one, yeah. So when he
somebody who's
someone on the
walking away,
production
like,
team,
let's
yeah.
shoot that guy and put him in a drink.
Exactly, but I think the production value was great. Bonnie was there with her squirter, wetting the T-shirt,
Oh, yes.
because we had to get the wet T-shirt effect. So
But we had to get rid of the dots on the T-shirt.
Exactly.
They illegal wouldn't allow the dots.
Yes.
That was in the 80s. They didn't allow those things to show.
And then
So-
the copy line was kind of fun. We wrote no experience necessary. And it's just, I mean, the one thing that I'm noticing for the first time is how colorful it is, and how, thinking now about what stands out in the marketplace. Color is very important, and if you look for those days, like color, we use color really well. I
Yes.
think it's like it stand out and.
And this was a really bad movie, shot on the worst schedule and the worst productions for like $1.50. And of course, it went straight to video. There was something that we used to call four-wall, where you put it in a theater for like an hour, so you could say it was in a theater. And then it went straight to video, and of course, you know what teenage boys like, right? It sold a lot of video boxes. So go back to Bob and Harvey meeting when they founded Parsons, and tell us a little bit about the early days.
Well, so these were some of the posters that I did prior to Indika, and these are just one thing that was fun for me there is I was the head of the creative department at the time, and just got to work on 10, 15, 20 movies every couple of months. There's a lot of product, so it allowed me to experiment and just have fun. And the Weinstein brothers were great mentors for me, because they actually really got into working in the creative process, because it was a distraction from running a business, and it was a distraction for them from having to deal with a lot of people, so they can hone in on a font. They'll talk about a font for an hour, and without even just to distract themselves.
Okay.
And
From eating coleslaw.
exactly. So then actually, they were also great with research for me. They kind of turned me on to research. They would come from like a trip, and they would go pull tear sheets from magazines, and they would just throw tear sheets at me and say, "Oh, we love this, we love that," and so that's kind of like the beginning of research for me, and the experience of using like a tear sheet almost as a brief. He didn't really have to say much. He would say, "I love this feeling." Kind of, he wouldn't say copy it, but he would say, "This is kind of what I think this movie needs," and then he'll give me 10 tear sheets covering the whole slate of films that I was going to work on for the next year. And I would just have these in my head, and I wouldn't really know what to do with them, because they were a little confusing, and it was trying to go into his head and interpret what he was looking for. So my job was to go home, analyze the tear sheet, and figure out, okay, how can I actually create something from something I don't understand? And as our relationship developed, I was able to then, come back to them with sketches and have them believe that it was their idea, and it had nothing to do with the tear sheet.
Like any client, right?
Exactly. But it was interesting. I mean, it was a spin board, which is good. It was kind of just like, okay, where is he going with this? And my job was to kind of dissect it and kind of go on an investigation and figure out, okay, what is he thinking? And so it allowed me to really put myself in the client's shoes all the time, and put myself in pleasing them, because if they're happy, then I'm happy, in a sense.
And you get paid.
And I get paid, exactly.
And in those days, tell everybody here, there was no Photoshop, because we're a little older, no Photoshop on the desktop. That you had to send out for retouching, which took, what, 2 or 3 days?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I want that eyebrow up.
$150 an hour, even more, $300.
Yeah, and then health scanners, which were these gigantic scanners that would literally, almost the way MakerBot 3D printing is now, that's how long it would take to scan something. So if Bob wanted, the chest lifted, wait 3 days, Bob.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially on Meryl Streep or something like that.
Especially that, or I think it was Angelica Houston. She was. So yeah, the process was a lot different then.
Exactly. And so, if we're talking about the process in those days, obviously without computers, everything was done by hand. Everything was like sketched out, and I started designing movie posters using a Xerox machine. So if you want to look, this is actually current. It looks a little old, but this was a couple of years ago. Give you an idea of how I make a poster now.
Tell me what it is in fact, boss. I'm wasting time, 'cause it's my highest baffled, and every situation understands well.
So I would literally create hundreds of those composites using the Xerox machine and play with all the photography, and then Vivek, who's my business partner, and he's a brilliant editor, would come in, and I would spend 2 days. In those days, using a Xerox machine and sketching took a lot of time. Now I can do like a sketch. These are sketches that were done for Pulp Fiction. So see, everything was kind of using photography, using the Xerox machine, using a hand drawings. Just kind of whatever way you can actually get the idea across. So
How many people here think they could work like that, or do work like that now, especially the art directors?
It'd be fun.
It'd be fun, but you don't do it, right? It's like
Exactly.
You don't have the
far
time.
away from your hand. The work is so far from your hand. And this isn't that old. What is Pulp Fiction, 91?
94.
94? Okay, so that's only, what, not even, 20 years is a long time, but the way you work now is still very similar.
Exactly. So if you look at these sketches, so these are our current presentations, and this is kind of where Vivek and I spar off each other. We work together. Like I would spend. Now I used to have 2 or 3 days to do sketches. Now I have like 2 hours, 3 hours sometimes to do a full page like this. And I usually would present to Vivek 3 sheets, would be maybe 60 ideas. So if we have to present 15 ideas, we do, you just double, triple the amount. And then what do you look for when you see like for instance, that say, go to the next one, go to the next one. Anyone? Okay, so here for instance, and this is just an example as well as Xerox, sketches done by hand. Some were done in a live box, and some I use instead of a Xerox machine, which we don't have anymore. I use an iPhone. I just take a picture off the screen, manipulate it, then print it out, and sketch from that.
And this is an 8.5, 11 piece of paper.
Correct.
So you're doing 12 little mini posters, and talk about why do you do so many baby teeny ones? What does that do for you?
Well, it's kind of managing the scale. So if you look at a movie poster, it's like 30 by 40 in format, and so there's a lot of information: the copy, the image, the text, and basically, like for me to be able to pass the project on to Vivek, he'll edit the comps. I'll move on to the next project. We'll edit them together, and I'll fight for some ideas, or
You'll fight for ideas?
Yeah, we will. And that's actually what's really wonderful. I mean, part of my job is to take a lot of ideas and hone them down to what the client wants. And part of my job is relationship related and making sure that everything, it's not about art, it's not about vanity, it's not about something that's personal. It's about just hearing the client 100% and delivering 100%, or maybe more than 100% if possible. So for me, it's if I'm given a ton of options, like 3 sheets of that for maybe an 8 comp or 10 comp presentation, that's wonderful, because then we can say, okay, this is awesome, but we can still throw it out because there's something better. When we started, we used to sort of have this scarcity of ideas. We'd be like, oh, we have 10 comps to do, let's do 10 sketches. And then you're stuck in love with that image, and you don't have the abundance to sort of say, even though it's good, this may be better, or, sometimes I may have a really strong opinion about something, and then when we disagree, it's very powerful to our creative process, because I want us sometimes to disagree, because when we're always like, oh, this is great, it becomes this, we just go down an avenue that may not be exactly right, because I tend to be focused on the client and their words, whereas James tends to be focused on the movie or the project and the kind of concerns of the project in itself. And
Right.
Sometimes there'll be things, like I remember for Ocean's 11, there was a comp that we did that was impossible in my mind to send to Warner Brothers. It was like, Warner Brothers is not going to receive this image with this big 11 on it and make that into a major movie poster. And James and I fought about it, and I was like, there's no way. And I was like, you're going to win this one, so we'll send it just as just to send it. And it ended up becoming the look. Do we have it? It's too far in there.
Okay.
Oh, actually, you have it in the
Slideshow.
hologram section.
Well,
We can
Yeah.
try
I
to
think
get
they
that.
know
But like,
There it is,
yeah,
right here.
right,
Yeah.
like that. Like
Yeah.
for me, that, especially when this came out, which is probably, 2001.
I think
think.
01,
Yeah. So like for me, it was like, I know these people there. They're not open to something that's so edgy that you've got all these giant stars. How can you not show them? It didn't make any sense to me. And for James, it was graphically beautiful, artistically special, and And we went with
Iconic.
it. And iconic,
Very
100% iconic,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And but my conservative kind of client nature isn't to say yes, great, do it. You know, we sent it anyway. The client loved it. It became the campaign.
But what about Julia Roberts?
Oh, that was later. Well, part of it was Julia Roberts at the time had this was very, very difficult with her image, and it was just difficult. And so.
Didn't she once tell me
Oh,
that
that
she
was-
said she has cheekbones?
Oh,
that
that
was
was
for
for
another
Notting Hill,
movie.
for
Okay.
another movie.
Yeah.
Where she was very vain.
Imagine telling the art director, I have cheekbones. I would
We were sitting in a light box at 3 in the morning on Notting Hill. I remember, and just being like, I have cheekbones, use them. It was like we're sitting there trying to like make a highlight where the cheekbones would be, which wasn't in the shot, but I mean, in that shot. But anyway, so it was something about the creative process being about balancing the pure creative and then the more analytical.
But you took these amazingly famous stars and you pushed them into the background and made them all sort of.
Exactly.
The graphic comes through more than the star
Well,
power.
I think at that point, this type of movie hadn't been made in 30 years, which is a movie with so much star power.
Yeah.
And it's super. The brand of the movie superseded the brand of the specific actors at the time, and so there was a sense of being able to transcend, showing 5 big faces, and trying to just sort of make it into another sort of rehashing. It was just the right time for the right market. I don't think even now this level of stardom exists because of the internet, because of the way Hollywood stars are. It's just it's very different. But at the time, you had the space to be truly iconic.
Yes.
And
Back to Saul Bass days. In a
Back
way.
to Saul Bass days, exactly.
And this one was actually one of the Steven Soderbergh's. We actually printed this poster, and the client approved it just to make him really happy because he loved that throwback Saul Bass aesthetic.
Yeah. Does everybody know Saul Bass?
Yeah, so and because it was Warner Brothers, we worked on multiple campaigns.
Yeah, there were
we
several
were able to do many different aspects, but most of it was framed around this graphic look.
Yeah. So this was Warner Brothers. You also worked for a lot of other studios, right?
Yeah.
And you had some key art awards. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure, I think.
Are
I think what happened is once Pulp Fiction came out, till Pulp Fiction, we were very much New York. I mean, we were extremely indie. Even the name Indika was derived from indies and indie film, and it was actually a book that was written at the time of Alexander the Great, and it was called Indika about his campaign, and we were like inspired by travel and art and all this stuff, and then indies, so it sort of fit. And all of a sudden, we started getting calls. Like I remember, we were relatively young, like TriStar's on the phone with a movie, and all this different kind of energy, and we started getting a lot of Hollywood attention. And so we started working with different studios, with Warner Brothers, with all of them, like Columbia, Paramount, and the kind of this whole indie ideal that we had started out with suddenly morphed into something very different.
And all the studios wanted to be indie.
And exactly, it was
Because of Miramax, yeah.
Exactly. And also what was important was, at that time, I think during The Last Samurai, and I think that year, including Ocean's 11, I think we got like 7 or 8 Key Art Award nominations, and we won 2 that year. And so
I don't know if everyone knows what
a Key Art
is.
Award is kind of the equivalent of a Clio or the equivalent of an Oscar for a movie campaign. So, like
They
the
use
Ocean's
the key
11
art.
won the Key Art of
Right.
the Best Poster of the Year, and Pulp Fiction won Best Poster of the Year. And so people started hearing about that, and so all of a sudden we were like one of the hot agencies,
Right.
and everyone wanted to use it. So you got a call from all the agencies that want to participate in
Exactly.
your growth.
So awards help.
Yes.
They do.
Note to self.
They do. They do.
Oh, yes,
That's
That was
cheekbones.
that's the lack of
cheekbones.
cheekbones.
And then I think what happened for us personally as sort of creative people was that at some point with all this Hollywood attention, and we sort of started diluting what we were about. And I felt like we became sort of, we ended up having an office in LA. We sort of started like shuffling from, studio to studio, spending more time in the car than doing creative. And it changed our experience of, for me, and I think for James too, like our experience of what it was and what we were actually about, which is the art. And I think that we ended up feeling like we had become sort of sold out, like more commercial, doing movies that we didn't particularly like sometimes, and with filmmakers that we didn't respect and clients that we didn't respect. And a lot of it is about, a lot of it was about sort of fashion. You know, you're hot today, you're not hot tomorrow, you're hot again. And that culture for us, being based out of New York and starting out here, sort of didn't feel like that was really where, I didn't want to get old in LA. Like, I really felt like
Yes,
I'm not
not
gonna,
that.
it was just not what I wanted. Yeah,
Yeah.
it didn't feel right, you know, and
In the
so-
car, getting old in the car.
getting all in the car, listening to
You have
NPR.
nothing to look forward to
Right.
except plastic surgery.
Exactly.
And
So
also,
it's,
and also we were also,
It's true.
and also we had a fully functional bi-coastal office. We had a full staff in New York, full staff in LA. We did our work through sketches. I would fax over the sketches, fax over, and we would talk about this content. And you had a full team there.
right.
They developed the content. Our team would go back to creative and do more ideas, and then they had to double all the assets. We had to double everything, and that I think became overwhelming. And then we kind of lost our camaraderie and kind of the connection of like sharing ideas and having the editing eye and me being able just to go off and do more research and come back in 5 minutes and discuss it with him.
Right.
So I think that disconnect kind of brought us back.
And that was like 10 years you were in LA, right?
Full 10 years.
Just back and forth in years.
Back and forth. So that was hard on your business as well.
It was, it's personally, everything, it was just not right for me. It's maybe right for somebody else, but it didn't work for us, I don't think, creatively or for me personally.
And are you still working for Miramax at all?
We,
Or
not the Weinstein,
On and off.
on and off,
Yeah.
but not.
So you're back to your original clients, to original city.
Right.
Right. So what are
Exactly.
some of the challenges, business challenges, relationships with clients? Talk a little bit about how that changed then. You just started to mention that.
I think that for us, I mean, I think when we kind of, at some point, I think we had to reckon with what we really wanted to do creatively, and we ended up shifting our operation in the sense and just being focused on the creative only as our source, and actually nurturing clients who supported that, and sort of, so not, just sort of like moving out of clients that didn't. So we would end up like finding, which was unusual for us at the time, because in a sense you have a business running and you want to bill everything you can.
Yeah.
But I think it was really about protecting the team and protecting us, because you'd have clients who were really sort of toxic, especially in LA, but here too sometimes. And I think what happened is we would notice that we'd have a job we'd do that we were fine with, and we'd get all this negativity back sometimes or once in a while, and then we would all go through a slump, and like kind of a creative slump, thinking that we didn't deliver or we did something wrong. And we sort of slowly, I remember this, there was a client who said, there was an example of a client where this lady was pregnant, and the designer was pregnant, and she, would have imminently, was going to have a baby, and he said, you better not have your baby till this job is done. And it was one of those things where we're like, this is outside of the realm of this is not what it's about. So we ended up.
So you fired some clients.
In a way, we just was too busy, or we just kind of
turned down work.
turned down work
For
and
better
for
work.
better work, and we started working with HBO a lot, who we love, and who's everything we like about working with a client, because they're inspiring and they're
New York based.
New York based, that helps. But also just that they're people that you want to work for and that inspire you to do creative, as opposed to people who you're suffering through.
What about the financial on that? You gave up a lot of studio work for, ostensibly TV work. What about the work, the relationships? Like, did you have to do suffer? You had a big studio in Tribeca.
Well, we didn't suffer, first of all, because we were delighted. And also because when we got rid of a lot of stuff, we also got rid of a lot of overhead. So it was one of those things where it actually worked out. It was risky at the time because we thought we were maybe making a mistake, or who knows, and you get stuck in your process and you want to keep it, it's hard to change.
Yeah.
But it ended up being the best thing we could have done, I think, and really brought us
Kind of back to basics, kind of almost, we kind of took on the mentality of doing how would it look if we started up again?
Right.
And then we're like, okay, we'll leave everything behind and throw out we had a huge loft in Tribeca, and we had all this space and all these files
And
and
junk.
research
A
materials.
lot of junk that has been built up.
A lot of
that was-
people, a lot of
Yeah.
overhead, a lot
And
of
then we
computers.
moved to Flatiron District, and then the only thing we kept was, you want to go back to the other image, is the library, which kind of is a source. We've been collecting these books for like 30 years now.
Jimmy knows every page in every one of those books.
Yes, every page is.
He really does.
You can ask me,
He can go like this, oh, there's a little insect there for.
because I've seen every image at least 20 times, because every time, in those days, I had a week to do research. Now it's like an hour.
But you have the
So,
internet.
we have the internet now, but I mean, I do both, but it's time consuming, unfortunately, go through books and photograph things and, but,
But I've seen you pull a book down and go, oh, here it is.
yeah, I think I know every single image in that book. I mean, at one point when we had big projects, I would go through the whole library because I would obsess over finding that right tear sheet and finding that right connection. And literally, by the time we started a project, we had literally our whole staff in the library, and we had maybe
Piles of books.
300 to 400 images that are all related to this story that we're trying to tell. And then we would edit those and then do sketches from those. And so a lot of the research process is very important.
So you guys get a disc or a link to a video that you always watch as your brief in a way still,
Correct.
or nobody gives you tear sheets from magazines
So-
anymore?
No, once in a while, I mean, it helps when a client says, we love these tear sheets, and then we can do a great presentation
Yeah.
based on honing in on what they're looking for. So, like if you want to, Gil, can you put on, this is one of the current presentations we did, the trash presentation. So if you look, this is what we present. So if you look at, okay, so this is kind of like a first round for a presentation. This was a project for Universal a couple of weeks, we did this a couple of months ago. But if you can get an idea of the amount of work and polish and thought that goes into every direction, because you can't just show 3 different color schemes and 3 different fonts and the same image cropped 5 times, because a lot of the industry is about that. You have to do volume, but so for instance, that was the finish, and that was from our first comps that we presented, and nothing changed from. I mean, pretty close to that. It's another one. Different fields, different font looks.
These are all comps.
They're all
They're all
comps.
comps,
Yeah.
yeah.
So if you look at these are using high-res photography and typography, and these all derive from sketches, little tiny sketches that look exactly like these comps. So you're not inventing anything on the computer. You're given a sketch that we all agree works. You build over it as a template, and it becomes a blueprint, and then you really focus on quality and design and color, and you're not trying to make a decision about, is this the right size to crop this image, is this the right font? You're never playing on the computer. It's more like a tool to execute a vision that there's already an agreement.
Right, one of the things we found with Photoshop or working on a computer, designing on a computer, is there's infinite options and they're immediately realizable. And what happens is that it's harder to edit when you can do anything and it's right in front of you. So what we ended up doing is that's why we're so dependent on sketches, and that's why we're so dependent on stages. Because we'll even for that presentation, we would have had maybe 40% more of sketches that went to that stage, or roughly that
So we
stage,
edited it out.
and then you edit down. But if you're trying to edit on the computer, you could take a day and a half doing the same thing that could actually take just a few hours once because you're not trying to get anywhere. You've got it already, either it works or it doesn't. And then you go on, and we have stages creatively where the first stage is just an assembly of images and basic type, and it's kind of ugly. Not ugly, it's just basic. And then we'll keep polishing it with color or lighting or just different kinds of treatment to take it to where we want it to go.
I have a dumb question. Why can you only use Universe Condensed as credits?
It's because
Is it
people.
true?
Well, it's not almost true. Like it has to look like that because
That's
it's
a
all
look.
legal. Because the logo, the credits by I don't know whose rules, but MPA I think
Yeah.
you have to be 25%
Right.
of your talent has to be at least 25% of
Right.
the logo. So if you use if you use like a normal font,
Yeah.
you'd have a billing block that goes all the way to just
But
giant.
it's always Universe.
It's pretty
Yes.
much almost uniform, because it's condensed and tall.
Yeah.
It's just simply because the studio wants to make it as small as possible, but you have rules to work with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you just got back from Mumbai.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So out of the blue, I'm from India, from Mumbai by chance, and out of the blue, not by chance. I mean, you know, it could have been there.
Because you were born there.
No, because if we were called from like Lagos for like Nigerian cinema, we would do it too.
Yeah.
But we got somebody call us out of the blue to do a Bollywood film, and it was, for me, it was thrilling because they were very smart and very interesting creatively, but also they reminded me of my childhood, and like there were people who I might have been friends with, and then all of a sudden they're on the other side and they're like executives in Mumbai and they're cool. And so we did one movie that did well artistically, and that was called Finding Fanny, which is a bit rude, but we did we did a campaign for like she's a huge star. There are all these kind of big Hollywood actors, and it was fun to do, and creatively they were actually very inspiring because they're not as conservative creatively and artistically. They're much more open to new things. So
There's like an independent, there is not like a studio system there, is that right?
It basically, the power of the producer and the star there is sort of, and the director, they're just paramount. They're way bigger than the power of the studio. Where here, it's very much very different. And so you'd have we had the director calling in and saying, oh, green, not green, it's just a fun process to work with. And so we did that, and then we did a few more films. And like this comp, for example, which it's hard to see being for a big Hollywood action film. It's just not, it's just too artistic, I think. It's just not what you normally would see. And they were like, well, we love it, let's do it, and that was fun creatively for us. And then also working on a logo where it's, half in Hindi and then half in English, just playing with different options was very, was interesting, aesthetically. And so that was the campaign for a movie that did somewhat well for a medium-sized film.
What does it say?
It's a town called Badlapur, and it's just a town. It means the town of revenge,
But limits revenge.
yeah. So the town of revenge.
Oh, thank you.
But it's
Pretty.
also but it's also a station in real life. It's based on a location. Yeah. So.
So it's true, she knows
So
to
yeah,
make
it's
that
very
up.
fun.
Have you seen it?
No, this is too much volume too.
Right.
But I saw the other Finding Fanny.
Oh,
was a
right.
beautiful movie.
Oh, you did, right.
And all the stars are very big stars.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that was and the other thing, whereas here, it's just marketing-wise, you usually lock on one key art, one look, and that would be what you spread everywhere because, brand recognition. Well, in India, they want every single look, so we'd send a comp of 10 comp presentations, and be like, oh, we like all of them. We'd be like, what do you mean you like all of them? You can't do all of them because they're all different. And then we'd have to go back and sort of find
Turn
talent.
it into a campaign. So they take a 10-comp presentation and say, we love them all. We kind of marry them all
That's
together.
our plan, same thing.
Yeah.
So if you look at all of them, they're all, they're,
So
So they have the same look and feel but different images.
which was done after.
Yeah.
which was done after. Unifying it with color. And we call it styling, which is you take, a built image and you find a mood and a tone, and then you style the comp to match that mood and tone.
Right.
So it's either through color or through a reoccurring element like a flame or something, or the color of the logo, so it has one look.
Right.
Oh. So, anything else before we, are you anything else to discuss? Anybody,
What if anything is kind of testing? Because you talk about you guys and the client, and that sounds like the ideal
Right.
situation
Right.
where nobody else gets involved and
Right.
you guys get to
Right.
make decisions. But is there any? I mean, these kind of budgets, for some of the bigger films, I would think there's got to be some testing with audiences.
There
Does
is.
that happen, or
It
how do you
definitely
incorporate that into the process?
Well, we don't ourselves because we're serving the client, who's the executive at the studio, and so what we do is we'll give them our options, as many as they can, and then they do all of that and get back to us with what works.
They usually have internal marketing meetings with a full team, like sometimes the size of this whole room
Right.
for a studio, and they'll go over the slate for the year, and they're working on these current projects. So they're the ones that they do test marketing
with
a lot.
consumers?
Yeah.
with
Of course.
consumers, yes. but they also, consider themselves experts in many different areas, so they'll know what's working, and they're all, through agreement, decide on,
So they'll come back to you and say, this tested poorly, but we like it, or
Exactly.
something like that?
Or sometimes
Have
they'll
you
be
heard-
like, they'll be like, there's 3 that are in the running because they're testing
Exactly.
well, however,
You're
so and
just
so
not
doesn't like
involved
it.
in it.
We're just
Exactly.
not up to that level.
and we'll do maybe sometimes, depending on the scale of the project, we'll do maybe 30, 40, 50, 60 rounds of revisions, almost like 100. Sometimes a film lasts 6 months,
Just
Depending
tweaking.
upon
revisions,
the director
alternates.
or the studio or,
With
there's
especially
so many
large,
people involved.
there's
Yeah.
sometimes 40 people that have signed up on a big film, and so then they all have to agree, and it almost takes forever. But for us, I think we've just put ourselves out of the we love working, that's part of it, and we love doing revisions when they're needed, and it's never personal. It's just we do our best. If a client doesn't like what we do, that's perfectly fine because we've done our best, and they should go to someone else who can get them what they want. It's one of the things because we don't have long-term contracts usually. We're free to do our best, and there's enough people that do what we do, and there's enough people that are our clients. That you just have to find the niche. You have to find the people that.
Relationship.
Yeah, it's all the relationship. Everything is about.
Great work, and you say great work, great relations, which is what we like to say.
Yeah, it's all it is. It's like if you're doing your best. I remember we did a movie a long time ago called Made, which was a Jon Favreau movie, and it tanked. Like the client just hated it, and we're like, we did our best. Like they hated it.
The presentation.
The presentation, I mean, tanked, not the
Like
movie.
the movie tank too?
No, the movie did well.
Oh.
But the art tank. I'm sorry, just from our perspective, it's like it was horrible. We're like, oh no, like what do we do? And it's like, okay, well we did our best, and nothing else we can do. We moved on, and a month later, the client's boss's boss happened to see it and said, no, we love this, and came back and finished the poster. So it was like
Personal.
it was sweet. It was sweet for us, but it was also like there's too many cooks. You can't.
Okay, so, sorry, go
One
ahead.
more thing, which is
Please,
like
please.
it's like our team. It's like really these 2 are 2 stellar examples of it, but it's like it's so important to have the right team and to love your team. It's just there's nothing more. Sometimes it feels like vacation for us going to work because of that, because there's no room for bad attitudes or drama or passive aggressive stuff. We try to be. So every once in a while there's an issue, but usually it's certainly not the team, it's between us. But it's like it's really about having the right team, because otherwise there's nothing.
So true. Do we have a shot of what happens when you leave their office? The single word that we see as you leave, there it is. Can you see it? It says yes, you leave the door. Love that. Totally positive attitude. Yes, you can do it.
Yeah, and we're also, what's great is we all work together, kind of like a newsroom in a sense, and it kind of has like an old-fashioned quality library, and the conference room is further in, and but it's great is that we're kind of our energies have to be connected, and there has to be a synergy because everyone can see what everyone else is doing, and so there's never room for negative energy. Everyone has to
Because you
be on
gotta
top
deal
of
with
their
it.
game. And
Do
really,
we see Bruce Lee? Do we have a shot of Bruce
oh
Lee?
no, actually, I didn't.
Oh, no. So tell about what's on the wall.
Oh no, I mean,
double copy.
in the conference room we had this big poster of like a Bruce Lee piece of art that we created, which was a gift that we gave to our clients during the Chinese New Year for the Year of the Dragon. It was like the double dragon, and so year, and so we found this image and turned it into a piece of art and gave it to all of our clients as a gift. So that became kind of our energy for the year, which was at the double dragon.
Yeah.
So that was one of our favorites, and we put that up in our conference room. But every year we would choose a character that we would kind of use as our mascot for the year.
It's like to reinvent ourselves every single year.
Like
So-
an inspiration for the year.
And what are you now?
Actually, this year we talked about, sounds a little corny, but a butterfly. Because the idea of just, butterfly is one, because it's like the freedom and the transformation. But also, another thing that we talked about this year, which is our energy, is the whole idea of surprise and how everyone loves surprises. And how every presentation that we send out is like a gift box to our clients, and they open up the PDF, and they're like, they're just in this space of joy and surprise, and they see our play and our commitment in the work, and they're satisfied. So that's kind of like our mantra for the
Anybody else have any questions? Tony?
The 90s was probably one of the last great decades in that independent film was the norm, indie music was the norm. And you guys created a poster that was promotional that ended up in one out of every 5 door votes in fiction. Did that kind of blow you away?
Well, I mean, the thing is that it does and it doesn't. I think having like your first printed piece is exciting. After that, it's not really as exciting anymore. So I think
What was the first one you did?
The Burning
Sex
was the
Lies?
first
Oh,
poster.
Burning. But then
Yeah.
Sex Lies came after that,
Yeah.
pretty much, yeah.
I mean, I guess my point is that we love a lot of the work in our portfolio and a lot of the projects, and so we don't really pick like favorites. But it's kind of exciting to see your work everywhere.
I think also we were so overwhelmed. I think we were a lot younger, obviously, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And we were like very, very overwhelmed all the time because you had all these scary people calling and the sense of, it was like, not you. But you know, it was you just survived it more than anything. Just make sure you got to your next deadline.
Yeah.
Like,
I understand also Uma did not really want to wear that in the shot, right?
Knowing that, do you want to show the picture?
Yeah,
of
you can get to the Pulp Fiction, because I think,
Yeah, I mean, when we were doing that, I had already done like 300 movie posters, and now we've done over 600. So there's so many that we can't really get so attached to. So in this one, we were at a photo shoot in LA, and Harvey Weinstein was faxing over tear sheets
of course,
images to photograph. He'll say, "Oh, make sure you get her in this pose. Make sure you get her to do this. Make sure." And if you go back with the sketch, she was wearing. Go back to the sketch here. That was the approved sketch. So in here we had her naked wearing a men's shirt, which was a tear sheet that Harvey Weinstein had pulled from Playboy magazine.
Of course.
That's
Harvey would literally destroy an entire plane load of magazines and send them to us.
Exactly. So I was at the photo shoot. I'm like, okay, we have the white shirt, we have her on a bed, we have like all the sex covered. So now Uma Thurman walks in and she's like, okay, where's the wardrobe? And she kind of comes in, she looks at everything, and all she sees is men's shirts, and she has to be naked underneath. And she basically said, I'm not wearing any of that shit. So she bought her own clothes. She put on a pair of black leggings and these beautiful high heels and like a black top. And basically, she didn't want to change from that outfit, and so that's why. If you look at now the final, she's fully covered except a little bit of her eyes.
She does have a gun, yeah.
But the magic of the shot is her attitude. So her attitude there was, she was she was there to create something, and she was having fun. But not that she needed to do it her way, but she didn't want to expose herself in a way that went against her character. So she kind of, so she fought for it, and in the end it worked out great.
Anybody else? Oh, John has a question.
So earlier you said that you used to have like days to do research, and now it's like an hour. What kind of tools do you guys use to streamline that process?
I mean, well, what I usually do is if I have 2 days, let's say, I'll spend a day in the library, and I'll spend a day basically goofing off. Sorry. Literally, I'll say, okay, everyone go home, I want to do my creative. And then they all go home, and I start drinking, I used to smoke, and I'd be online, and I'd just goof off the whole time. And thinking, okay, so now I thought that I had to go through that, and it's a very organic process. So it was like 5 hours of a waste of time. I'll have a nap, and I'll do nothing. And then I'll stay up all night, suffer, and then
You'll push it out.
yeah, and then basically in 2 hours, then I'll just sit down and I'll do the sketches. But I had to go through that moment of kind of like feeling insecure and playing and feeling rebellious.
So those are the tools.
That's my
Exactly. But now also we have like image archives that we started on our computers of images that we love, that we know that are thematically could work on several different types of projects. We use Pinterest like crazy. It's like you
So
know,
I mean,
things
with
like
the
that.
internet, you don't really need the library. I mean, I know the books and the references. We have like 10 photographers that we always look at, their books, their history, and then once you go online, you find, you know, layers and layers of research. And you go to a graphic design book now, and you look up the art director, you Google him or her name in, and you see their whole portfolios. And then, so if you like their work, or it's a painter, or a photographer,
So easy now.
yeah, now it's very easy. So, but yeah, we basically store hundreds of images that are related to the subject. So if you have the brief in mind, and you have the character from the film, the main protagonist, or whoever you're selling, or the spirit of the director's vision in your head, while you're looking at these images, you're just editing out anything that's related in one way or another, either for the typography, for the attitude, for the crop, for the color. And so by the time an hour passes, you'll have like a couple of hundred images. And then those sometimes we'll sit and edit together so we can hone in. But it's basically just an abundance of images allows you to then edit out the ones you're more passionate about, the ones that are more on target. So it's really controlling them in folders, like iconic, photographic, or this is more for coloring, or this is just a folder of type. And then with, you know, and then those folders, Vivek and I will edit, and then we give it to the designer. I don't do all the sketches all the time on my own. So a lot of designers get folders and they'll just do sketches, or they'll do their own research as well.
Megan.
I really liked the Ocean's 11 example
Mhm.
of how, you know, you really didn't think the client was going to like it, you loved it. On the other side, can you share an example of when a client maybe was pushing you to a place that made you a little creatively sad, and how you sort of turned them around?
I don't think we've ever been made creatively sad. And I think we've been, like, personalities make you sad, but the brief doesn't. Because it's always a challenge. Like if they're disrespectful or unkind or rude or whatever, that's different. But I don't think we've had a brief per se, because you know it's what they have to do. I mean, we don't exist without our clients. You know, so if they have to do something, it's not even because they want it. It's because somebody's telling them to do it. You know, you're part of a chain, and I don't think there's a brief. I can't remember a brief that actually we didn't want to do. It's just how to do it well, you know, and it's often hard to do, or often you'll have like, you know, some image that's, I mean, we're working in film, so it's different with film because you usually have, I mean, it's just you're using actors, you're using locations, but the briefs, no matter how narrow, can always be made interesting, you know, it's how you approach it, the research you do, somebody's done it well before us, and you know, it's always doing the research to find who did it interestingly and who didn't, you know.
And also with a creative presentation, you have one shot. The first round is in, and funny I was using the word surprise, but like one in the first round, you want to kind of surprise the client, you want to get them excited, and you're looking at all the explorations and the presentation gets them excited. And then after that, if they're not happy, then they come back and say make revisions. It's a little bit sad. But basically, you've had your shot. Now it's like, okay, what's missing? What can I do? How can I get them happy again, in a sense? And not just that you're pleasing them, but the idea is you want to get the job satisfied. So you want to go back in so you've had your time to play. Now it's really down to business and, okay, what are they looking for now? And usually if a client complains or doesn't call, if a client tells you they hate something, it's better than not having them call back at all. It's the worst.
Right.
Because then
At
they're
least
just
you
like,
have a dialogue then.
Right.
exactly.
And they haven't written you off.
Yeah.
You know, because they'll write you off. If you're not hearing, if somebody isn't mad at you, then they're really mad. You know what I mean? Because then you're off the slate.
Oh, yeah,
You know?
we've had that,
It's
yeah.
like,
We'll have that. So, in the interest of time, because I don't want to make people late for their 12s, we do